Jonathan, I know it wasn't an easy year for the Detroit Red Wings, but you personally had a very good season. The numbers, especially December, have been positive. How do you assess your season?
Obviously, you always try to improve, and as a team, we didn't really have the season that we wanted to, and we're still kind of in that rebuilding phase. But I still believe that we were a better team than what we shown on the result every night. But yeah, personally, I think probably Blash got confidence in me, and he started to play me more.
You went through in Toronto. You were on a team that was going to eventually finish last place, and I guess was in rebuilding. Did that experience prepare you, help you for what you're going through in Detroit right now?
Definitely. I think I was still kind of young in my pro career when I went to Toronto, and to go through this in a market like Toronto was really really hard. And I think from everything that I've learned there, I kind of brought that experience with my teammates and with my team this year. And I think for a goalie, the biggest thing is just to you can't worry about winning losing when you're in that type of rebuilding. I think you just gotta bring out your best, and make sure that you're giving everything every night, instead of maybe once you start losing 3-4, then it gets hard mentally. So I think you just gotta kind of cancel that and just worry about your own job.
Detroit's a passionate market, just like Toronto, an original six. What was the experience like when you look back on it in Toronto? The biggest challenge of dealing with losing in a market where there's so much attention.
Yeah, I think I'm sure a lot of guys that play in Toronto or played, they'll tell you that once you win one game, it feels like you're the best team, and then once you lose one game, then you're the worst team. So I think it's just a matter of um, kind of stay level, and obviously I try to not read anything about hockey when I play during the season, so you kind of just stay more level. Emotions are not too high or too low. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just not to get too hyped from what the media are saying. It's just you do your job and you're having fun.
Be honest, did you not read anything in Toronto, or did you cheat ever?
No,
No.
no, actually I never did. No.
Okay.
Stopped
Uh,
watching TSN too for a bit.
you were watching TSN or no?
Weren't.
You weren't. Oh, okay. Well, I don't
No.
take it personally. But highlights.
Yeah, they're
Um,
good highlights.
so okay, I was in Detroit back November 27th, and I apologize for bringing this up. This probably it isn't a good memory for you guys, but I was in Detroit. The Leafs were playing the Red Wings on November 27th. Jimmy Howard gets hurt. You were supposed to start, but I think you were sick, and you had to come back in. Otherwise, we might have seen an emergency goalie situation. Can you take us through the challenge that night was for you?
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I kind of just woke up from my nap, and obviously I probably had some sort of flu. So I still drove to the rink, uh, but I was in the back sleeping, and so when I heard that Jimmy got hurt, as soon as I heard that, I went and put my gear on, and I was just trying to survive out there, and and plus I probably had, I don't know, 50 shots in 2.5 periods or 2 periods, so it was a lot of work for sure. Took me a few days to recover from that.
Yeah, they were showing a close up of you during that game. It did not look like any fun. So were you, so you got to the rink where sorry, you said you were sleeping in the back for a bit?
Yes, so I had so the whole time that guys warmed up, and the stretching and all that, the meetings, I was sleeping in the back, and obviously going to the bathroom once in a while. So
Did you think about not playing? Because I assume there's an emergency guy there if you could not play. Like, did it cross your mind that hey, I can't do this?
yeah, I mean, I couldn't do this to the guys. At the end of the day, yes, it's we have him in case of really big emergency. So uh, I wasn't injured, so I just figured, I'll go out there and give what I got, and I think, obviously the team and teammates appreciate what I did. How
In terms of challenging games, guys play through injuries and illness. Where does that rank in terms of the toughest games you've had to gut out in your career?
Yeah, it was up there definitely. I think with the amount of shots I faced, it seemed like at that time they didn't leave the zone at all, so they just kept coming, and I was like, I need a break here.
Yeah, it was very the ice was slanted that night, but
Yeah.
you were actually a star. You were the third star, I think. So,
Oh,
um,
really?
yeah, the you got respect for what you did because everyone up
Okay.
in the press box knew it wasn't, and everyone in the building knew it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of look big picture with the Red Wings. I know obviously you're from Quebec. Have you heard? What have you heard about Alexis Lafreniere? Because there's a possibility he could be coming to Detroit after the draft.
So I've been actually training with Laffy for 5, 6 years now. So he's been in our program for a while, and to be honest, he's been the best player for the last 4 or 5 years, even when he was a kid. So you can tell he's a special player that, and any team that's gonna have the chance, he's a great kid, works hard, and he's passionate. He's really dedicated to hockey, and he's the type of kid that will change your franchise for sure.
It's funny. I was talking to Barrett Hayton, the World Junior captain, and he was saying like the love of the game is what stands out from Alexi. When you're around him, like what's his? You said passion. Like what's that like? His personality.
Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty funny and same time quiet, but uh, he's you know in the gym every day, works really hard, and he wants to get better. He's on the ice extra longer than most guys, and those are, to me, that's when you know that the person really likes what he does, and he's passionate about hockey and to try to be the best he can.
What's the group that you guys work out together in for the last few years?
So the last few years, Antoine Roussel in Vancouver, Paquette in Tampa. We got we used to have some older guys that retired, but Dupree used to work out with us. Giguere. We had Burrows, so we had a really good group, and now it just seemed like I'm on the other side of the older guys now.
Well, experience, right? You got that
Yeah.
experience, savvy veteran experience. So, and Lafreniere holds his own with those guys is pretty good, eh?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
What do you make of the young talent in Detroit? I guess I'll ask you about Dylan Larkin. He's still fairly young, but also experienced now. What is he like as a leader? Because a lot of people in Detroit see him as the next leader for the franchise.
Yeah, yeah. Larks is obviously he's got tremendous skills. He's a really great skater, and kind of like Laffy, he's very passionate. He gets emotional sometimes during games or in between periods, but that's what you want. You want guys that care about winning, and that's how you get over that hump. It's we talk about rebuild, but it's never easy. You don't want to be in an environment where you keep losing and losing all the time, and because that way it's guys feel comfortable by losing. And I think the biggest challenge is when you have 2 3 bad years. You got to find a way to be on above 500 to start feeling what it takes every night to win, and I think he's the type of guy that understand that um, it's a long season, but you gotta put your foot down for the whole season, and find a way to come up every night. And he scored some big goals for us, and he's a great leader.
So even though the team wasn't clearly in the spot in the standings to compete, he was still pretty passionate in the way he was talking to the guys.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's Larks. He's like I say, he's very emotional, and he's a funny guy. But um, once it's game time, it's game time for him.
A couple of the younger guys. What do you think of Anthony Mantha?
Yeah, unfortunately, he had some injuries this year, and uh, but definitely we missed him. He's a big part of this team. Great scorer. It's kind of, I wouldn't put it that way, but he's kind of Ovi, where he's got his spot in the one timer on the power play, and And I thought when Zadina came up, um, it felt like we kind of had two good power plays because he was in the same spot and two good shooters. So I think you just got to find a guy that can feed those guys, bring guys to the other side, and these guys will get open. But yeah, Mo is obviously a tremendous player. He's got the size, got everything.
Tyler Bertuzzi, what do you think of him?
I think he just um, I think you fulfill this line. Like you got Mo is a really good, he's a sniper. You got Larks that's got great speed, great skills, and you got Bird that kind of goes in the corner, does everything well. Um, and every night he shows up. He's a really hard player to play against.
A bit off the wall here, but I was looking at some social media from last year and last May actually. I saw you posted about how you got your helicopter license. I think became a pilot. Why? I guess you wrote on social media and Instagram that was something that you had wanted for a while. Why was that something that interested you and that you really wanted to achieve?
I always had the passion of flying, and I was gonna get my plane license first because usually that's what people do. It's doesn't cost as much, and then you can get the feel of flying if you're gonna like it. And I did a little. One of my friend had a float plane at our cottage, so I went with up with them, and then the next day I went to try a helicopter, and I just fell in love with it. The To me, it's just um, the speed where you can really slow down and see things the way you want, and the challenge too. It's definitely much harder than flying a plane, so it's a cool challenge to have.
What's the challenge with flying a helicopter?
Well, just to take off and landing, or the most, I guess, the most dangerous where you can crash. So if you're not if you don't have the skill to do it, it's actually pretty hard to control three controls at the same time and be able to stabilize it and talk to the control and things like that. So it's yeah, I just but the main thing for me was really what you can do with a helicopter compared to a plane. I thought that was really cool.
In terms of maneuvering it around?
Yeah, and then if you see a spot where you want to land and have lunch, or you can do that. You can um, really you can be 1,500 feet and up in the air and going 0 knots, so you can go as fast as you want, and yeah, just the freedom that you have.
Is it clear your mind? I know you're pretty focused. Obviously, you have to be when you're flying. But what does it do for you in terms of an outlet? Do you feel like it allows you to think or clears your mind, or how does it affect you in that way?
Yeah, obviously we got a really busy schedule in the season, but I find like when I don't, when things are not going well, like I'll just take an hour or two and go and fly, and it just takes your mind away from hockey, or for things that you know you're not happy about, or things like that. So I just like when I'm up there, it just you're seeing the view. It's pretty special.
Do you have a favorite place to fly in the Detroit area so far?
Uh, so we actually went to Traverse City once, and that's by the water. But there's water everywhere here, so it's pretty amazing the view. And I've took my family and see the downtown Detroit. But really, where I fly the most is back home at my cottage. I'll go see my parents or things like that. So it's yeah, it's pretty cool.